There's only 24 hours in a day. I got a pair of earbuds and I wish there was a way that I could know just what I want to listen to. There's 150,000 shows that I'm not sitting through. When the world is dark and boring, let us do your exploring. Pod on pod. Pod on pod.
Welcome to Pod on Pod, a guide to the world of podcasts because it's not your daddy's radio. We're your hosts.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Joel. And this week we're discussing What Say You?
What say you, Joel?
What say you, Josh? What say I? I say that we should talk about this show. This is from Brian Quinn and Sal Vulcano. Those are names you might actually recognize. These guys are not nobodies. They're not exactly, they're not A-list celebrities, let's say that, but they're not nobodies either. They got a TV show.
They do have a TV show.
They are two members of the four-member group known as the Tenderloins. You may know them better as Impractical Jokers, right?
TruTV's Impractical Jokers.
Now, this was a show that I had heard of as a thing that existed. I did not know what channel it was on. I did not know any of the guys from it. And I did not know that they had any connection whatsoever to Smodco, Kevin Smith, and his podcasting empire.
I didn't know the show. I didn't know about the Tenderloins. I did know Brian, Q Quinn, we'll just call him Q from here on out. I did know Q from the podcast TESD. In fact, it was from listening to that show long enough that I wanted to give Impractical Jokers a shot.
TESD, Tell 'em Steve Dave. That's the podcast hosted by the guys from Comic Book Men. It's Walt Flanagan.
And
Brian Johnson.
And Brian Quinn.
Brian Quinn. Those are the three hosts for Tell 'em Steve Dave. And again, that's part of the Smodco network. Now, What Say You, though, isn't part of the Smodco network.
It's not.
Just so happens to be a crossover. And there's some other shows like that where one member of a podcast has another podcast on the Smodco network, but then they also do something independently. These guys, Brian Quinn, Sal Vulcano, have been friends, since they were children.
Yeah, many, many years.
And that is the best thing about this show. The friendship and the depth of that relationship is what comes through in their conversations week to week. And whether you like the topic of their particular conversation, whether you even like these guys, that relationship can definitely be interesting, funny, entertaining, and something that'll draw you in. Don't you think?
Yeah, to me, Sal is the hidden gem of this podcast.
First of all, the show started in, September of 2013. It hasn't been on very long. As a matter of fact, here I'm accidentally starting an episode right now. I didn't mean to do that. It's got a great theme song. The show started in September of 2013, and I believe episode 26 is their current one, I think, or that's the next one that'll be out. So they're not even through their first year yet, but they've already really hit the ground running. They seem to have a good format from the beginning.
Yes.
And I'm not the only one that was drawn into this show.
They actually won the Stitcher Award for Best New Podcast, and they only had 10, 11 episodes under their belt.
My first episode listening to the show was episode 19. And first of all, we should preface all of this by saying it is a comedy podcast, a loose comedy podcast, generally just the two guys, although they do have guests on occasion. And it's an explicit show. They do curse on the show. They talk about adult subject matter. It is, though, frankly hilarious. Their voices, their accents, the density of their speech patterns and everything was a little thick for me to get through at first. And I was thinking that I was going to be very dismissive of the show.
Well, I think me knowing them, knowing Sal at least from a different medium, television, and actually having a picture of what he looks like, what he sounds like, and that's my first introduction to him. And then getting him on the podcast made a really smooth transition.
Yeah, I didn't know either one of these guys. I didn't have any relationship with Tell 'em Steve Dave, so I was coming in blind. Episode 19 was my first show, and it took me about 6 or 7 minutes in, I got a little interested. The guys were having a conversation about modern masculinity and video games and what it's like being a modern man, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Then they transitioned into this story, though. oh my goodness. The story, the name of the episode says it all, and we're not going to spoil anything.
No, it's amazing.
But the name of the episode 19, is called I Have Your Pants. And again, if you don't mind explicit comedy podcasts, I would just say listen to episode 19. If you don't like it by the end of that episode, you're probably not going to like this show.
Generally, most podcasts need 2 or 3 episodes to get the idea of what that podcast is doing. Right?
Yeah.
To figure it out.
Well, we have a standing rule. You listen to 3
3
episodes at least. If we're reviewing a show blind that we've never heard, we each listen to 3 episodes. And we don't tell each other what 3 we listen to. So generally we have at least 5, 6, 7 episodes total between us.
Right. That's the standard. Give any show 3, but this one, if you listen to episode 19,
you'll know.
Either it's for you or it's not for you.
You're either for it or against it, my friend,
Yeah.
after episode 19. So the way that we review shows every week right here on Pod on Pod is through 4 criteria: audio quality, host likability, production values, and then content. Let's start off with audio quality. This show, they know what they're doing, and I think that's largely thanks to the fact that they actually, at least in the beginning, ship the show off to a producer. They pitch him by name.
They always do. They use Creaky Studios.
Creaky Studios, yes.
It's a company based in Ireland with Declan.
Yeah.
And Declan has done work for several shows for WTF, for TESD. He's done a lot of stuff for Smodco, and he's doing What Say You as well.
Nice. Well, he does a great job. Generally, the guys sound fantastic. There are a few episodes where they record on the go. I'm trying to think of the particular numbers, but about the 3rd or 4th episode I listened to, they were actually in their Jeep on the way to work. They're on their way to filming, and so they got like a 45-minute commute. So they just recorded an episode. So if you've
ever driven in a Jeep Wrangler, you know the road noise that produces.
And you don't hear all of that road noise on the recording. They do a fantastic job of cutting it down.
While the quality for that episode is not great, it's much better than what I expected. They also have recorded in the emergency room of a hospital.
I know. I haven't heard that episode yet.
Yeah. So when they're at home in station, it's generally always solid. When they're recording on the go, it's hit or miss.
Which takes us to our next level of review, host likability. You've got Quinn, or Q, and Sal. Brian Quinn and Sal Vulcano are your 2 hosts. And as I said, they do have guests on, but really it's the 2 guys that you're buying into or not here. Quinn, I liked him pretty quickly. Well, as quickly as I got over his voice. Sal, it took me, I had to go all the way through the pants story. And there was something about the humanness of him, the humanity that I found. He revealed something, which happens a lot in podcasting. You reveal something really that you wouldn't tell strangers generally, but you open up over the course of 45 minutes or an hour. He did. I loved both these guys by the end of one episode.
Q, I was already used to. I've listened to Tell 'em Steve Dave for a while now, so I knew what to expect with him. But dang, man, Sal, to me, he's the workhorse of the show.
It does seem like Brian is the... Well, okay. You and I often use the Mike and Mike analogy. We like you've got a professional broadcaster and then the retired player or whatever. Right. That's really the dynamic that we have on our other show. Brian and Sal, I think, have a very similar dynamic. Brian seems to be the host. He kind of opens things up, frames the conversation, often brings the first topic, and leads the discussion, while Sal is really the fuel. He's the engine of whatever it is that the show becomes.
And I think it comes from Q has done a lot of podcasting. Sal hasn't, but they both do a lot of live shows with their group, the Tenderloins. So he's used to coming up with stories and stuff on the fly, I would assume. But there's just, each show seems like there's just a great story in it. And without spoiling anything, just some things that tickle me to think of from the show are Nugget, the honey bear, the box of porn, Shack Time are all great things. In fact, it's already given me an idea of the first guest I want to have on the show.
On our show?
Yeah, for this show.
All right. Dave Thomas, founder of Wendy's. That's the one. Oh, you were going to set me up, huh? You were going to set me up, huh? Huh? No, not for me, sir. Does that mean I got the point?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I was working to set up in.
This game, what just happened on this podcast makes very little sense to you until you listen to episode 20 of What Say You. They reveal a game that they've played for a long time and that Josh and I have fallen madly in love with. Dave Thomas, founder of Wendy's, again, just one more of the excellent things that came out of us finding What Say You. Let's move on to the next level of our discussion here, production values. There's really nothing to speak of here other than the catchiest theme song I've heard in podcasting.
Well, they don't have a whole lot of production value, but they will cut in. They will play, say, for instance, there's one where Sal was staying in a hotel, and it's a very fun story about a girl who was crying outside of his door. I won't go into it too much, but he recorded the audio. It annoyed him so much.
And so they played the audio.
So there's little things like that that'll pop up every now and then.
When it's important for a bit, they use things. But the theme song, the name of it, by the way, is F for Effort from Less Vinyl, and it is amazing. The way that it's cut, they play the full thing at the end of the show, and they play just a little of it at the beginning of the show before they say hello. And so if you're listening to several episodes, if you've just got them in a row, you hear the whole song, and then it just continues, and it makes my day every time it starts. I sing it way too much around the house. So even though there's very little production value, because the theme song is so good, I'm going to say that they nailed this area too.
All right, fair enough.
Which takes us to the content itself. Are the guys funny? And when you're talking about a comedy show, that's what it comes down to. I mean, the fact of the matter is this is a personal relationship, and they've got maybe like, maybe you're a fan of them, and so you want to just hear what they're doing week to week. But what the show really is about humor and about entertaining you for an hour or so. I think they nail it more often than not.
Yeah.
It's consistently funny. The guys are always doing something interesting. They lead pretty interesting lives, and they themselves are neurotic enough and odd enough to be humorous.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, I give it an A+ on the content too. Which brings us to alternate names for this show.
I've got a great one.
Okay. Don't give your best one first. Build up to it.
Well, I think I've only got one.
Oh, okay. Well, let me give a few then.
Okay.
And maybe I'll spark one. How about, and here's what I would call it. This is exactly what I called it to my wife. I said, I know this is silly. Just listen to episode 19. That's what I'm going to call it to everybody else. I know this is silly. Just listen to episode 19.
I would call it GFY ? Emoji with the tongue sticking out.
What does that stand for? That's tech speak of some sort?
There's an episode called GFY. Maybe you should listen to it.
All right. Okay. I was thinking maybe you could call it Incomplete Jokers.
I would call it Failed Crank Anchors.
Failed Crank Anchors. Oh, because they close the show every show by trying to
call a random person, and it
like
never works.
19 out of 10, 19 out of 20 episodes it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
It's happened a couple of times.
The fact of the matter is, it's kind of hard to call a random phone number
and get somebody to answer because everybody screens their phones now.
Yeah. How about What Say Nugget?
Oh, What Say Nugget? That could be its own podcast.
So that brings us to our rating itself. What would you give this show? We rate every show that we review here on Pod out of 2 possible earbuds each, which means the show itself can get 4 earbuds if it's stellar. To be a 2 earbud show for me, though, you gotta be perfect. I don't want to give this 2 earbuds, and I'll tell you why. I don't think it's for everybody. It's the fact, yes, it's humorous.
No show will ever get 2 earbuds. No show is for everybody. There's not one.
Fair enough. I guess you're right. I gave Decode DC 2 earbuds. And
that show definitely isn't for everybody. Not even close.
Then. Okay. Well, in light of that understanding, What say you from Joel? 2 earbuds officially.
From Josh, 2 earbuds.
Is this...
I've listened to every episode from day one. Haven't missed one. It's rare that I have a show that I listen to every single week.
Yeah.
And it's rare for a show that I specifically give a singular episode knowing that if I can get someone to listen to this one episode, they're hooked.
Well, that's so rare for a show. That's the whole our very format of reviewing is set up on the idea that you have to listen to multiple episodes to really understand whether you're going to enjoy a show or not. That is just not true with this one. That one story encapsulates everything that this show's about so perfectly.
So if there's a podcast out there to where I know one episode will get someone hooked, it's got to be a 2 earbud podcast.
Just because it's so true to itself. Look at that. That is a pretty good way to understand it. Yeah. If you don't mind a little dirty humor now and again, this show is for you. It really is funny. It'll tickle your funny bone. We believe in it 100%. And
it is our first 4 earbud show.
Ding, 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 ding. They win the grand prize, the no prize, as it were. It is not on its way to them quickly.
I would take a no prize.
You'd take a no prize? You know what? You get a no prize too.
Yes!
Yes. Just for you. Don't forget to stop by podonpod.com. Send us an email if you've got a show you'd like us to review and save you the time, podonpod@icloud.com. Subscribe to us in iTunes. And also check out teamprocreate.com for the full Procast network. Until next week.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Joel. We'll see you in a few days.
Hey, you want to try to make a phone call like they do?
No, I don't want to do that. I would feel very uncomfortable if anyone answered.
Are you wanting something funny? Are you wanting something smart? A show on astral projection or the history of art? Do you want to learn a language or how to play guitar? Just leave it up to Joel and Josh. Pod on pod. Pod on pod.
Pod on Pod is a proud member of the Procast network, a ProCreate production. ProCreate is a community of artists in film, music, the digital arts, and fine arts that helps connect and collaborate on projects. You can find out more at www.teamprocreate.com. Also, be sure to check out the non-content podcast if you're a fan of gaming and or anime. The Pod on Pod theme song is written and performed by Adam Dale. Find his music in iTunes and more information about him on our website. Our musical guest this week is Rockwila, and you can find more information about them in the description.
You can tell that I'm different. I'm not your average rapper. I never sold crack or held a gat at point blank range to somebody's brain and told them please don't empty the register. I've known my pops my whole life. Does that make me less black or am I commended for being truthful to what I'm used to? Am I considered as dope as those that put on the front or am I ignored cause I don't rap about popping the deuce? If I can't be me while I do this, the fuck do I rap for? I don't need to impress you dressing up in skinny jeans, rapping like I'm Waka Flocka. Talk about the shit that I didn't see. I'm me, and I ain't trying to be nobody else. So if you don't like me the way that I am, then you can just bite me. Me changing is unlikely. Honestly, I find irony in lines when rappers spit they the truth and they be lying. Since when is it corny to be yourself and being different is a crime? Let's make them regret that's even on their mind. Put up your ones if you want in a million. There ain't nobody like you. They hate because they spiteful. Fuck them if they don't like you. You do you cause you like to. If you feel the way that I do, stand up and embrace the put up your middle fingers if you want in a million. There ain't nobody like you. They hate because they spiteful. Fuck them if they don't like you. You do you cause you like to. If you feel the way that I do, stand up and embrace the fact to be one in a million. What makes you better than me? Is it because I graduated from high school and never had to sell any weed? Grew up north, so as a kid I knew nothing about thugs. Didn't go back to the hood my parents worked so hard to keep me out of. I'm not ashamed of that. But all the prejudgment of me being the L7 has turned me to a maniac. I fuck to turn them black girls, but they don't think I'm black. So I only date the white girl cause they crazy in the sack. Don't judge a man by his specs and intelligence level. Yeah, I'm nice with computers, but my flow will freeze cripple the devil. You can't be on my level. You keep your mindless lyrics. Homie, I'm deep. To get me, you need to deep with a shovel. I know this ain't what you expected when hearing this record. Well, for the record, I can give a fuck what you expected. My sole purpose in this rap shit, deliver a message. Even if that message is to tell you your ones if you want in a million. There ain't nobody like you. They hate because they spiteful. Fuck them if they don't like you. You do you cause you like to if you feel the way that I do. Stand up and embrace the put out your middle fingers if